Good evening everyone and welcome back to the KartSim Champions of the Future esports season here in 2026. And you join us this evening for round number 2 of the International Series, and I'm very excited, as I'm sure all the drivers out there on the virtual black stuff this evening are as well, that we are taking to Circuit 27. That's down in Thessaloniki in Greece. Not a circuit I've ever been to in real life, but from watching some onboards ready for this evening, it looks like a cracking circuit layout, and of course a circuit that's only recently opened back in August of 2025, so great that KartSim have already got it into the software, ready to be used this evening in Champions of the Future Esports Racing. As I say, round number 2 of the International Series this evening. My name is John Ratcliffe. I'm going to be guiding you through all the action here today from round number 2 of the International Series, and joining me in the commentary box as always, it's ex-GB3 racer, Mr. Josh Irvin. Good evening, Josh. How are you?
Good evening, John. It's going to be a fun one tonight. It's going to be a new track even to myself as well, so it's not a track that I've driven, so let's see. New track for everyone. There's a lot of them have done a lot of laps in practice, but it's really going to come down to where to race, where can you go for those overtakes, where can you go for those defensive lines. It looks like a very, very technical track from a very small amount of laps that me and you have done on the virtual track. So many opportunities for overtaking, and I hope we're going to have a very, very competitive race here.
It should be good. It's going to be exciting. Even a circuit that you've not been to, Josh. Usually you've got all the knowledge of every single circuit that is out there in terms of kart racing. Of course, with your time racing karts and also with your time here at KartSim. So a surprise that even you don't know this circuit particularly well. So we're all going to be learning here this evening on this stream, as the drivers are as well. Of course, to remind you, they've all already done pre-qualifying. So all the drivers racing this evening have all qualified to get a space on track this evening to be involved in the racing round, and so that means that they will have had a bit of time to get up to speed with this circuit and start to get those lap times in, but we'll wait and see who's able to get themselves up to the sharp end of the order. For this evening, we get straight into practice then. So it's a bit more time for drivers to get some times on the board. First one through already from Mr. Alex Zicki, a 1:02 to set the pace initially. Isaac Morgan comes across the line about 0.8 of a second off. So we'll see how quickly it is for the drivers to drop below that 1 minute marker. Joshua Bailey goes ever so slightly faster, 4 thousandths of a second. And yet again, Joshua Bailey and Alex Zicki locking horns out there on the virtual racetrack. We've gotten pretty used to those two. Getting stuck in with the action out on circuit, and those two, of course, battling through to a championship last year in the KartSim British Esports Championship. But for this season in Champions of the Future, both those two racing really well. We've seen them at, I think, all of the rounds, I think barring maybe one for Joshua Bailey, but both racing really well. Last time we saw them out was, of course, for the UK Series. A few weeks ago, that was out at PFI. Really good race that, and actually a really tough one for the guys behind the scenes here at KartSim to actually work out which battles to watch. The racing was that good out at PF, but PF very much a circuit we all know and love. But this circuit, a new one certainly to myself. Hopefully it produces just as good racing. As Josh was saying, very different style of circuit as well. Very technical, but also very fast. Corners leading into one another. There's a lot of cases of corners where you sort of maybe lose a bit of time on the initial first part of the corner to gain a bit more on the exit and set up an overtaking opportunity. But often this season, we've seen the likes of Warwick Milam looking to dash on ahead very early in these races. He's become pretty good at it as well, to be fair to him, as he's now gone fastest. First driver down below the 1 minute marker then. And of course, it's Warwick Milam. 59.376 then, the time to beat. Still a good bit of time, though, for drivers to find a little bit more pace.
Well, yeah, if we think about the Pro UK, not Pro UK, the UK Series Round 1, Warwick was actually picked off the line by Alexis Genelay, but he did manage to get it back, and at the end of that first lap, he had that little bit of breathing room, which just allowed him to slowly extend the gap. Both drivers very, very, very similar in pace within half a tenth, pretty much every lap, from qualifying to practice to the pre-qualifiers as well. So that little half a second to a second on that first lap that Warwick can just about get away so far in Champions of the Future Esports means he's just had that little bit of breathing room. But it's a completely different track. You have a lot more sweeping lefts into rights and rights into lefts, which means you can really try and actually go for a bit more of a lunge in the first sector.
Yeah, let's wait and see then. Of course, that move from Warwick Milan was amazing, wasn't it? Down through the bridge section, as you say, lovely start. It was from Alexis Janellet. But we thought that was it. Down through under the bridge section, he's got it sorted. Right, let's see how he can hold the lead. Straight round the outside, down through the bridge section of Warwick Milan. It was amazing. And that kind of tenacity is what wins you races here in KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. Warwick Milan has certainly won himself a few, hasn't he? Only one race so far in 2026 that Warwick Milan has not won, but he did win that one on the road. It was for a jump start penalty, that one that dropped him down into 6th place. But in terms of the International Series, round number 1 did indeed go to Mr. Warwick Milan. It was 2nd for Alexis Janellet and 3rd for Guy Bitty in that first round. I don't think Guy racing this evening, sadly, so he's going to be dropping down the championship because of that. It was 4th place from Joshua Bailey in the first round, and 5th place for Alex Igzicki. Yet again, just like we've seen already in the pace out there, those two locking horns, and they already have done in the International Series. Both those two young drivers, of course, were racing in the cadets last year, but for Champions of the Future Esports, we don't do cadets and seniors. We chuck them all in the seniors, so it's been a big step up for both those two drivers, but I've been really impressed with not only their outright pace, but also their battling as well. We saw Bailey drop down the pack, didn't we, at PF, but he fought his way back through.
No, absolutely. It's really throwing these drivers into the deep end, but it's still level equipment as well. Something that one of the big benefits in esports racing is that there's no different engines, there's no different tyres, everything is the same, which makes the racing so much closer between the field. Now, as we watch on board with Thomas Anthony as he goes over those big curves in the chicane, let's go on board with Warwick Milan to see what this Thessaloniki track looks like. Oh, Warwick is just sitting out of pits. He's done his laps. Alexis also coming back to pits to go with that Warwick Milan tactic of going for one push lap, coming in, and then going again.
Indeed. Let's see if it works out for him this evening. So these guys all press on round, then continuing on with practice. Of course, 15 minutes of practice on the clock. Then we'll move into 10 minutes of qualifying. And on a very long circuit like this, it's going to be tough to get enough laps in, really, to find a bit of time. 1.5 kilometres almost, this circuit. A very, very long one. And then we move, of course, into the 12-lap race. And that is really where points being prizes. And we'll talk about those in a few moments. But a long season ahead still, not only in the International Series, but, of course, the entire race calendar as well. Here is the calendar for the International Series. Round 2 it is here at Thessaloniki, so still a long way to go for the rest of the year. Viterbo in Italy on the 1st of July for round number 3. Make sure you join us for that one. And then we move off into the Middle East rounds, down to Oman, and then 2 races in the UAE to finish off the season. But a bit of a break, as you can see as well. That's round number 3, 1st of July, and then we don't return for the International Series until October. Of course, that's running in lockstep with the real International Series in real life for RGMMC and Champions of the Future. And here is your overall race calendar. I won't run round to round there. As you can see, there's quite a few of them, but 3 different series running this year. The UK Series, the International Series, and the Euro Series. As you can see, we're not even halfway through the total number of races this year. So make sure, for one, that you're subscribed to both the KartSim YouTube channel and the Champions of the Future YouTube channel, so you don't miss any of the racing action covered this year. And also, if you've piqued your interest here on the live stream, make sure that you purchase yourself the Champions of the Future software package over on the KartSim website and get yourself involved, because the racing this year has already been fantastic.
Yeah, not only do you get you're involved in the sort of Champions of the Future racing, but there's so many new tracks on this Champions of the Future software. Thessaloniki, for one, a great track. If we're looking at it now, there's a lot of elevation, isn't there? It looks like a really good track that can compete with somewhere like PF5 for elevation as you come through that last chicane. A very flowing track. And in a senior, it's very quick, isn't it? It's very full on. You think about tracks like Wilton Mill, they're very technical as well. There's no brakes, and I feel like this is a track that also has there's no brakes, but it's just a little bit longer and just sort of brings you into that sort of international track layout. So it's a very unique track for me, as Elias Knoll, he's a little bit grass but managed to recover it on the exit there. But no, another tracks we have Alain, Moulson, Alforsan, and there's one more I'm forgetting, John. I'm sure you can help me out with that. But I think it's a very good opportunity for drivers around the world to get involved in KartSim Esports and hopefully drive the home track. I'm sure we have a couple Greek drivers in this race now. And it's been a track that's been very requested on KartSim Esports as well.
Yeah, we've got drivers from all across the world, haven't we, competing in KartSim Champions of the Future Esports, and great to have so many drivers involved. We've got a really nice mix, I would say, as all Joshua Bailey there, a little bit too wide, that one. He does collect it up, but quite a bit of time lost there. Best time to do it, though, is in practice. Yeah, as I was saying, it's a nice mix of drivers that we've had already in KartSim Esports across the last year or two, where we started really ramping up KartSim Esports again here, which is fantastic from the team, putting on these kind of shows and allowing drivers to show their talent. Good to see a mix of drivers from who had already competed in KartSim Esports, and also lots of new drivers as well who race in Champions of the Future in real life, getting themselves stuck in with the esports racing as well. Fantastic, the crossover there, and showing as well that drivers who maybe do a little bit of karting here and there, but mostly crack on with the esports, really taking it to those drivers who are super quick in real life at these circuits themselves as well. But yeah, speaking through the season, of course, lots of prizes on offer as well for each of the 3 series. There's prizes for first, second and third in the championship. Championship winner gets themselves a free entry to a Champions of the Future Academy race in 2027. That's huge. Or 25% off of the full season. That includes a brand new kart and engine, awning space, a kart trolley and workbench, all tyres and fuel, logistics and materials, plus a £1,000 KartSim store voucher as well. What a prize for the championship winner. And then runner-up gets a £500 voucher, and Championship P3 gets a £250 voucher. So lots of stuff on offer here across all 3 of the series. Plenty of the drivers taking to all 3 of the series as well to try and bag themselves not only some silverware, but also some prizes on offer as well. We'll see who is able to do that. For the moment, in the series standings and in the standings here in practice, Warwick Milam currently on the top. It's almost by half a second still out there. Warwick's pace has been amazing so far in practice already, and he's looking pretty difficult to beat, I would say, Josh.
Yeah, we don't have Alexis in this race as well, so that's Warwick's main adversary, unfortunately, out of it. But we still have some very good drivers up the top. We have Joshua Bailey, who I'm sure is really going to bring that gap down in qualifying, but we also have 2 tenths that separate the next 8 after that as well. So I'm sure any of them are trying to either follow Warwick as he gets collected on the exit there. Ethan Miller just in front. It's all about track positioning. See who you can get behind that's quick, because there are some long straights, but there's also a lot of learning for these drivers, and in practice where maybe they haven't learnt the track fully and they might not know what others are doing. Warwick might have found something in one corner that the other drivers just might not have considered. So that's where practice is for, to learn this new track and to learn these new techniques, because Warwick's obviously found that 4 tenths over the rest of the field that I'm sure the others are desperately trying to claw back.
Yeah, exactly. They're all trying to find that time, aren't they? They're also trying to work out where they can get those moves done once we do get into green flag racing conditions. You saw there that little ding-dong between Isaac Morger and Warwick Milam, showing where maybe you can't get a move done without making contact. But if you're going to do it at any point, do it in the practice session. They're getting those out the way, hopefully, before we go into full racing conditions. As you say, no Alexis Chenelay, sadly, for this one. So someone else is going to have to bring the heat to Warwick Milam. And it looked as though it might be a battle for second. But Joshua Bailey has turned up the wick here. And he's put himself within 2 tenths of a second now of Warwick Milam's time. So still a bit to find, but closing in for sure. I was going to highlight, as you mentioned, quite how close it was between second down to 5th place. It was only a couple of hundredths a few moments ago. But as we say, now Bailey finds a bit more time, puts himself closer to Milam. But in about a minute and 20 or so second time, all these times are going to be wiped, and we're going to forget them and move straight on to qualifying.
Well, all practice times are really quite relevant anyways, to be completely honest, John. But you can see what I was talking about. Joshua's going to claw back to that 4 tenths. There's no way Warwick in such a competitive grid will have a lasting 4 tenths gap on the rest of the field. So Joshua really pushing again. He needs to push for the last sort of 10 laps in a row, not really having much of a break, just to try find half a tenth here and half a tenth there. Exactly.
It's all getting that metronome swinging, isn't it? Getting yourself into the zone, ready for the proper sessions, as we say. Of course, practice, as you say, Josh, can tell us a lot, but those times do get wiped, and we press on and see if the drivers can do it all again. And now, even, I was saying earlier, how quickly is it going to be the drivers drop below 1 minute? it might even be a case now, will the drivers drop below the 59-second mark? Only a quarter of a second to find for Warwick Milam, and now once again he's doing battle with a few more drivers, seeing where he can race toe to toe, side by side with Ethan Miller through the final corner, and that's a bit of a tough one. Shuffled over to the grass there on the outside goes Warwick, and yeah, maybe in the race, if he does find himself further down the order, around the final corner, around the outside of the final corner, might not be the best shout, but time's going to tick to 0 then. Drivers next time around will see the checkered flag, and we bring practice to a close here at Circuit 27 in Thessaloniki in Greece. Bailey comes across the line, does not improve on that personal best time. Still a good omen from him with that initial pace from earlier in the session. 4th place for Tristan Powell. It's a good time from him there to pop himself up on up in the top 4. With Ellis Beattie with him as well there on what effectively would be the second row of the grid. Good times from those two this evening. Lexicki, I would say with a little bit more to find, I think. A couple of hundreds, as we say, could bump him up even 2 or 3 positions potentially on the grid. But Lexicki, I think, will be hoping for a little bit more once it does come into qualifying in a few moments' time. Axel Nocom just outside of that top 5. He's been an impressive driver as well, has Axel. Then we've got Miller, Anthony. Adam Purview is a new name to KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. Well, welcome, Adam. He's going to bring his practice session to a close as well. You see how much the kart jumps down there through that through the final corner there. I did make a note that the total elevation change through the circuit of 27 metres. So you do go up and down quite a bit on this track from the top part of the circuit to the bottom. Quite a big change.
Surely that must rival to some tracks like PF5 that have bridge sections as well. That's honestly a very, very interesting track, especially coming into that last corner. I think that's my favourite part so far. You got about 4 pieces of chicane and then into the very, very fast corner, which gives you a long straight on exit. So it's a very punishing track. So you can see where Warwick might have that 2 temps over the rest of the track, where you can just find a little bit and everyone just sort of see them all crowding the exit of the pits. They're waiting, they're ready to go, and all of them just sort of explode out the pits like a swarm of angry bees. So they're not waiting about, except Tristan Powell, who's going to let them give him a little thing, as Isaac Morgan has a little bit of a collection out there, just really desperate for some track position.
A couple of drivers keeping it nice and calm and just waiting, the likes of Powell just waiting in the pit lane. A couple of drivers diving straight out and getting into a crash at the first corner. Some different styles of getting themselves set up for qualifying. Let's see which one works here. We've got 10 minutes then for the drivers to find pace out there, and equally really I think for the moment try and find a bit of fresh air out there on the black stuff, because they are very much in a bit of demolition derby on this first out lap here onto qualifying, but it is just an out lap. No time's being gained anyway. Joshua Bailey's fighting for a bit of track position here. Ellis Beattie. Bailey gets it and now will lead the train of drivers down through the rest of this qualifying lap. As you say, those last couple of corners, from a commentator's perspective, not a great set of corners, because you can't really make any moves, but from a driver's perspective, those corners are awesome, especially with the undulation, the elevation changes, as you say. You're really hanging it through those few corners, and as a driver, even on the simulator, it must feel amazing having the car on the edge of grip. As one driver there, they might be a bit dizzy after that one, upside down a few times, but luckily, as we say, we are on the sim, they can just rejoin and have another go.
Well, I feel like I know the reason why everyone was so manic out the pits is because Warwick decided to go first.
Right.
So Warwick, as you can see, Joshua Bailey's got a really nice gap to Warwick now, so he can really start pushing. He's got a purple sector 1 to prove it. But everyone panicked when we saw Warwick, tried to follow Warwick out the pits, and then all fought for track position behind him, which Joshua Bailey, being second in practice, has rightfully earned. And he goes purple for this lap so far. So let's see what sort of lap time he's doing compared to practice once he crosses the line.
I was surprised that Joshua went purple in sector number 2 there, because he had a big moment there down through the right hand and nearly lost it. Went off onto the grass, managed to collect it up and rejoin. And as to be expected, 3/4 of a second off the initial pace from Warwick Milam. Warwick Milam, first hot lap of qualifying, goes within, what's that, a tenth and a bit of his fastest lap in practice there. That's ridiculous, straight out the pits, and he is straight on pace.
Yeah, about 10th and a half, and I don't think the tyres are fully in for all these drivers yet either, so he's going to find more on this lap. Actually, I was going to say, he's done the standard Warwick Milam of going back in for a new set of tyres, so that's left Joshua Bailey all out alone in the front of the grid to try and close the gap.
The classic Milam strat is making an appearance already here in qualifying. We've only had one hot lap But what a hot lap that was from Warwick Milam. 59.386 already, laying down the marker for the rest of his competitors to try and get close to. It's basically like dangling a carrot in front of a donkey, isn't it, to the rest of the drivers? Right, come on, try and match that pace. And Joshua Bailey has almost done it there on that time around the circuit. 0.07 of a second off is Joshua Bailey. Nice lap from the young British driver as he looks to try and take the fight to Warwick Milam. Well, he's still got about 6.5 minutes left to find some more, so it's not out of the question just yet. Thomas Anstey, another driver trying to find a bit of pace. Green in sector 1, but a bit of time lost there in sector number 2. He's on that bubble with Lexicki and Axel Nokum at the moment. Just a few tenths, almost about half a second off the pace at the moment, isn't he, Thomas Anthony? Will he find a bit more then? Down through the last couple of corners he goes. Is it going to be a personal best? It is, just from Thomas Anthony. Wasn't quite closing, I don't think, on Lexicki quite enough, though. But as you're pointing out, Josh, it's a good lap so far from Tristan Powell.
Tristan Powell, a tenth and a half up in the first sector on any other driver out there. So he's really found something there. Let's see how he finishes this final sector, coming into this deep hairpin, coming back up the hill so he can come around into this sort of last section. This bit here, this really stems from this corner here, so it's all about track positioning and how focused you are, because that is a very fast last corner, which he might have taken a slightly bit too much curb and jumped across the track. 59.5, but losing 0.3 in the last sector means that if he fixes that mistake, I really think he's got a chance of going towards what Warwick Milam's doing. And Joshua Bailey, 5 thousandths off Warwick's time, so he's finding time by just pounding around the track. And Warwick, as I say that, has gone for 59.1, the fastest lap time we've seen today, as he's done his second fastest lap. So he's going for a second push now. Joshua Bailey stopping for a new set of tyres.
Well, there we go then. There goes all of my excitement of how close it was getting at the top. Milan once again extends the gap, as you say, to almost 0.2 of a second now. It was a great lap from Joshua Bailey to put himself very close to Milam's time and very close to the ultimate pace that we've seen not only this evening but in pre-qualifying as well. Fastest time in pre-qualifying, a 59.376. Obviously from Mr. Warwick Milam. So he's beaten that already here in qualifying by almost 0.2 of a second. Amazing job, and those great laps from Joshua Bailey and Tristan Powell has once again seen them a few tenths off. Powell should, as you said, Josh, should have been on pole there. A little mistake through the final sector, lost him those few tenths and dropped him off of the front row of the grid. Let's see if he can find it again here, find that magic once more, and see if he can jump his way up onto the front row. Really, can anyone beat Warwick Milam? Let's wait and see. Ethan Miller's going to come across the line now. New personal best for Miller. He pops up onto the third row of the grid then. 2 thousandths off of the second row. Super close there between BT and Miller. And both of them continue on round trying to find more time. Here's Tristan Powell. Might get a bit held up though by Isaac Morgan. For the moment, doesn't matter. He's already lost quite a bit of time there through sectors 1 and 2.
Yeah, he just needs to find some space and really try and fix that last sector that he... Again, that was a little bit better, but there's a little bit more exit curve. He can use out that one. But again, a green last sector behind Isaac Morgan, so he's probably a little bit off his theoretical lap time at the moment. As Warwick Milam, you could see that giant dip as you come through that last corner. The car jumps and then squeezes and hugs the road. That's honestly one of the better corners I think I've ever seen on a track. So a very, very characteristic track. It is a new track, but it's still got all those features of those great tracks. When we think about PFI, you think about South Garda. I really feel like this new track, they've really hit the mark with the design and how the layout is. Yeah,
they've smashed it, honestly. Whoever designed this track has done a great job, as you say. Already some of these corners absolutely iconic with how the karts dance through them, and some of the fast right, left, right, it's almost sort of corkscrew-esque over in Laguna Seca. Maybe not quite as much of a drop-off as those. That would not be comfortable in a kart, but still some amazing elevation changes, as some amazing pace out there on circuit. Once again, Milam's going faster. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2. It's only by a couple of hundredths, but as they say at Tesco, every little helps. Can he go any faster? A little bit lost in the final sector then, and no, he doesn't. 247 versus a 194, but only half a tenth off. That just shows the consistency as well from Milam. That's what has been winning in races so far this season.
you took the words right out of my mouth, John. That is really what he's had over the rest of the drivers. He can be fast, but he can be fast every lap, and he's really trying to extract it. You could see he found 100th there and 100th there. Joshua Bailey, could he contest it? Purple middle sector, half a tenth off in the first sector. Let's see how this last sector ends up as it comes down through that quadruple chicane, hugs the curb, uses a little bit more exit, and it is so close. 200ths off, purple second and third sector, but 2 more hundredths to go. Can he squeeze it out the first sector? He's done it before. Can he hook it up? And that's just such a hard thing, especially in qualifying. You start to overthink it. Once you know you've done a really, really good first sector and second sector, that third sector really starts to feel alien. So to be able to extract lap time, that's really, really difficult for these drivers.
That's sometimes why I almost, occasionally I prefer to not have my deltas and things on the dash, because then I get too excited in the third sector and go, oh, my first part of the lap's so good, and then I make a mistake.
It is true. To be fair, I've had it before as well, but you sort of get used to it. You need to use delta for more trying things and seeing sort of where the time is. Oh, that was quicker. Let me see how much I found. But you definitely don't want to be focusing on that delta. But I don't think any of these top drivers are, because half a tenth is a blink of an eye. You really can't see it that much, and it's just about really getting that perfect lap time, or getting as close to that perfect lap time as you want.
Exactly, yeah. Drivers trying to hook it up then over the last couple of minutes of this session. I say couple of minutes, last couple of laps really. 30 seconds left to go on the clock then. I was going to say it had to be an absolutely monstrous final sector from Joshua Bailey to beat Warwick Milam's time, and it almost was. Well, it was a fantastic sector. Purple, but not quite quick enough to beat Milam's overall lap time. As you say, Bailey needs to find a little bit more down in sector number 1. Saying that, though, Milam's just started what will be his last lap of this session. Let's see if he can really, really stake his claim here as champion in 2026 and go even faster. Well, he has in Sector 1. 7,000ths of a second already, Warwick Milam has found, as the checkered flag does officially go out. I think a couple of drivers there just darting through and sneaking in a cheeky extra lap. But Ethan Miller puts in a new personal best there on his last trip around the circuit. 0.184 off of the overall fastest time from Milam. A very good lap there from Miller. Gets his way up into third place. 3/4 of a tenth lost in sector number 2, though, for Warwick Milam. I think this lap might just be gone, and this now leaves it in the hands of Joshua Bailey. But 100% does there. Milam makes mistakes and goes off, but Bailey's off as well, and I think that gives Warwick Milam pole position for round number 2 of the International Series here in the KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. BT goes for a spin there post-checkered flag, but I think our grid pretty much set then. I thought Bailey could maybe get it in the dying moments, but it wasn't meant to be. And yet again, Warwick Milam takes pole position.
Well, you saw that Joshua sort of let go of a lap. You know, as soon as you make that one mistake, it's so hard to beat Warwick and get that sort of top time when everyone's so close. As you saw by Warwick, both of them are both setting purple sectors here and there, but it's only half a hundredth or half a tenth at the very most I've seen. So a very, very, very close time between them. 200 separate them. Warwick Milam first, Joshua Bailey second, Ethan Miller third. Tristan Parrell is finishing off the second row. He just couldn't get that last sector sorted and put that lap together, but there's a real good promise in him for this race here. Ellis Beatty 5th, Thomas Anthony, Alex Nakom, Alex Lazicki and Adam Purvu. James Butt rounding up the top 10 as we go to 11th place. Victor Gerasim, Isaac Morgan, Anson Gao, Lionel and Benjamin Nascimento. That's our top 15 for that race there. Let's see, can Warwick Milam get that stop that we want? Can he get off the line and get that little gap on Joshua Bailey and the rest of the grid? So it's all up to play again. 200ths between them, so there's not much, is there, John?
Yeah, not too long until we find out. Not much between them at all, as you say, Josh. I think really the strat is going to be just as I've said at previous races. Can the drivers get ahead of Warwick Milam before the first few corners? If they can, there's potential of a good scrap on our hands. If Milam can get ahead and start to stretch his legs over the first couple of laps, he might be off into the sunset yet again here in KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. So let's wait and see then. Drivers heading to the grid in preparation for lights out green flag action. And great to see, as we say, I mentioned earlier a couple of new names on the grid. Adam Purvu, I already said hello to you and welcome. Benjamin Nascimento as well. Welcome, Benjamin, to KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. I hope we do see you back often as well. As we say, brilliant to see the other drivers really make a step up here at round 2 of the International Series. I think we all had a little suspicion that not having Alexis here might just mean that Warwick Milam has a very, very easy evening of it. But he hasn't. He's really still been made to fight for it. I thought initially when we jumped into practice, Warwick put in a time and it was about half a second quicker than everyone else. I was starting to think, oh no, he's going to drive away with this one. This is going to be a very dull one for us in the commentary box and for you at home. But no, the drivers have brought it to him. It's really close in terms of overall pace, and the likes of Joshua Bailey has closed right in. What can he do? Offer the race start here. And as you say, Tristan Powell, not quite got the consistency, I think, of someone like Warwick Milam, but there is a lot of pace there from Tristan. If he can get it down, particularly early on in the race, try and make some moves, as potential Tristan could get stuck in for the battle for the race lead as well here. But I think really more than any of the races we've seen so far this year, this start is going to be absolutely key.
And it's the first time a lot of these drivers actually raced on this layout as well, so they don't really know where the overtaking spots are, where they can get these moves done. So a lot of them are going into this first corner for the first time with someone next to them, so very, very nervous sort of the first lap. But if they can all get through safely and then focus on their race, that's going to be the best outcome here for everyone.
You make a very fair point. Of course, the drivers will have had a bit of dicey racing practice across the practice sessions and pre-qualifying and things, but that's very different to the first corner of a kart race. It's always exciting. It's always close, and we'll have to see how this one plays out then. We're underway in racing here. That's the Circuit 27 in Thessaloniki and Greece. Bailey's on the outside, Milam's on the inside, and sweeping all the way through. It goes, well, it's a couple of drivers there diving to the inside line as Bailey gets absolutely hung out to dry as 3 or 4 of them chuck straight off into the wall, and that's going to completely reshuffle up the order. My goodness, Milam's away, and who's gone with him now? It's Axel Nocom and Adam Purvu. Those two have done very, very well, same as James Vout, as the rest of the drivers went far too deep there into the right-hander, all got caught up in each other, and off to the wall they went.
I think it's a case of people not really realising where the braking point is for that first hairpin. They haven't gone in it on the dirt on the inside, and I think some of them may have won through the first corner on the outside, really, really destroyed sort of Joshua Bailey's run because he still got pushed onto the grass, and as he tried to brake for that hairpin, it just loaded the whole pack into a little bit too wide, and that exit barrier is really unforgiving with how close it is to actually where the track is. So Warwick Milam, he's had that perfect start. He's got that second gap, so it's up to Axel Nocom now. Again, a very, very good start from, I believe, P6. Correct me if I'm wrong, John. But very, very good sort of first couple of corners. Antoine Gao goes flying out that corner there. Let's see how this one turns out. James Vout is on the rear of Adam Purvu. And Joshua Bailey recovering back to 5th place miraculously after that initial first lap crash. So can he pull back into those points? This is a championship at the end of the day, and we're only in round 2 of 6. So it's all about getting those consistent points.
Indeed it is. I think actually Bailey getting shuffled wide there at the first corner might have actually benefited him because it kept him out of the way when the big crash then happened down sort of turns 3 and 4. So he was able to avoid and sort of slot his way back in. Of course, still a less than ideal race start, to say the least, for Joshua Bailey. But anyway, he's made it work, and that time he sends up the inside. I think that was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other there, really. Bailey up the inside, Vout sort of turning in. Bit of contact, but they both press on, and Bailey is into 4th place. He's now got Adam Purvu and Axel Nocom to hunt down. Those two dropping about 1.5 seconds now off your race leader of Warwick Milam. The best place to be when there's a big crash going on the first lap is out in the lead. And that's exactly where Warwick Milam found himself. A nice start, held the inside line well. And how this circuit, first few corners of the circuit, really benefiting that driver on the inside line with pole position. And it's worked out very nicely for him. As I say, he's already gapping the field. It was just over 2 seconds for a moment there. I think we can expect to see that gap between Milam and Nocom slowly but surely increasing through the rest of this race.
Yeah, it really does favour inside line. I think Joshua Bailey naturally sort of stepped back to 5th place because you've got 3 right-handers in a row. So there's no real chance. If P3 does a good job of start, where it being a standing starts in KartSim Esports, it's very hard not to have a good start. So it really just kept him around the outside and it just pushed him off track slightly, which Just to go against you, John, quickly, he did really get caught up in that crash in the second corner. Unfortunately, he had nowhere to go because he was on the outside. As sort of everyone goes ahead, there's no way he can slot in, but he did avoid it somewhat. He did also get very lucky in a way that he is somehow in 4th place now, which is a bit of his own doing. He's catching Adam Pervu here. There's only half a second between 4th and 3rd place. As you can see, there's a fight from 8th down to 10th, and some drivers get collected in the background. Tristan Powell, unfortunately, not the best race for him. It's the first race in KartSim Esports, I believe, and he's just getting used to. Obviously, he was very heavily involved in that first corner crash, and let's see if he can sort of use the pace to get back through the field slightly.
Indeed, yeah, and then getting a bit of contact there with Nascimento. It was those two heading off to the scenery there earlier on this lap. As you say, Powell trying to find his way back through the order, but a difficult start to the race in this one for him. He's shown really good pace, so let's see if he can find a few extra places in the second half of this one. Warwick Milam starts lap number 5, then we are almost at the second half point of this race. He's down into the 59.1s, just like he was in qualifying. Very, very fast lap time there from Warwick Milam. He's extended the gap now to about 2.5 seconds. Bailey now through on Pervu. Pervu was under a bit of pressure actually from James Vout. Those two were nicely close together in their squabble for 4th place. And then we look back here, the battle for 6th as well. Thomas Santi is all ahead. That's James Vout, I think, off of the road. It is indeed. Vout is off. He takes too much curb there through the right-hander, and over he goes. That's a couple of cheeky positions then for Thomas Anthony and Ellis Beattie. They both find a way through, same for Morgan and Miller. Vout's going to drop down to the bottom end of the top 10, I think, by the time he gets back on all 4 wheels. I think he has just about cut in ahead of Alex Liczicki. Another driver caught up in that scuffle on the first lap. As you say, Joshua Bailey getting caught up as he was round on the outside line, courtesy of that race start, but somehow didn't get caught in the car park in the wall on the outside. The likes of Liczicki, Powell, I think Miller and Knoll as well. Got to give a shout out to Ethan Miller, but he now finds himself the leader of sort of the second part of the race, as this is all getting very close there through the final couple of corners. This is that sort of secondary pack. Miller just ahead there in 7th place. Then it's almost 10 seconds to Ellis Beattie in 6th. So this is basically the first of the drivers that were involved in the incident is Miller, and then these two going side by side as that's cheeky up the inside there, looking to make a place up into P9. Alex Liczicki picking the pocket there of Isaac Morgan. That was very nice.
No, actually, this is actually becoming into a really nice race where all these drivers have been collected, but they're still making most of it. How the points work in KartSim Esports, it's 75 points for first, and then 3 down as Anson Gao actually gets the inside line there and picks up a couple of nice positions on Isaac Morgan and James Out. As James Out again runs slightly wide, a bit of a messy race for James.
Yeah, James gets hip checked there a little bit by Isaac Morgan, shuffled over the grass once again. Yeah, James has found himself off track a couple of times in this one, hasn't he? Sadly for him, as he drops back into that big pack. Now this is at the sort of the back end of our leading squabble. Ellis Beattie almost onto the back of Thomas Anthony now. See if Ellis can launch an attack here through the second part of this race. Only about 5 laps to go then after this one. And Milam's gap now almost 4 seconds at the sharp end. And to be fair to Axel Nocom, he is losing time to Milam, but he is also stretching his legs on Joshua Bailey in 3rd place as well. He's got, as I say, 5 laps to find 1.5 seconds. Can Joshua Bailey do it? And that would really be saving what was a tough first lap, and that would be some great points under his belt for Bailey to try and fire his way up the championship standings, and of course bag himself some gifts at the end of the season if he's able to stay up in the top 3. Well, Milam is on to lap number 8 then. Now he is indeed confirmed over 4 seconds clear. The rest of the drivers still battling well in behind. Beattie was almost onto the back of Anthony, but I think he's lost a bit of time there through sector 3. We drop back to 9th place. So that must mean then, yes, Ethan Miller and Liczicki have started to clear off in these two. Powell and Gao now battle for the last positions in the top 10.
Just to put it out there, Joshua Bailey has been the fastest driver on track for the last 2 laps.
Oh, wow.
So he is, as you see that gap to Axel Nocom, he has closed a tremendous amount as Axel about a second off for pace at last lap. Lap before was about 4 tenths off Joshua Bailey. So Joshua Bailey only 3 tenths off now. Can he get back in 2nd place? What a recovery for Joshua Bailey as a drive. This has really been a tricky start for him, but it's looking like he's on for a 2nd place here, John.
Yeah, wow, fair play to Joshua Bailey. Yeah, Axel Nocom's pace has been brilliant, but Joshua Bailey has really turned up the wick over the last couple of laps. With a bit of fresh air ahead of him, he's been hunting down Axel Nocom. I thought he's got 5 laps to get 1.5 seconds. Can he do it? Well, he's nearly done it in the space of about 1 or 2 laps, has Joshua Bailey, as he now closes right up to the rear bumper of Axel Nocom. Nocom wants a good showing from this race, though. He's relatively recent to KartSim Esports. I think, I want to say this is his 2nd or 3rd race in total in KartSim Esports. And a 2nd place he would be mightily, mightily happy with. Qualified down sort of in the middle of the pack, didn't he, Axel? And benefited from that start, but still has had to be metronomic in his pace, not make any mistakes, and keep it ahead of the rest of the drivers around him. He's pulled clear of the likes of Purvu, Anthony and BT. But Bailey, as you say, after those shenanigans on lap number 1, has just clawed his way back up the order, and now he's right onto the rear bumper of Nocom. At least over this lap, though, hasn't closed up demonstrably. Bailey has not been able to think about a move just yet, and those laps are ticking by.
We've got 2 laps left, and Axel Nocom has obviously seen Joshua Bailey in his proverbial rearview mirror, and he has really tried to turn up a little bit. That last lap, a couple attempts quicker than is what he's used to, but that last sort of 3 attempts is really difficult for Joshua Bailey to get into that striking distance, and 2 laps left with 4 seconds behind the 2 of them. I can't see Axel Nocom not defending his position with all his might.
He's got to, hasn't he? When's he going to defend? He's not defended yet, and that's really been beneficial because he's been able to hit his markers and has kept on really good pace here to keep Bailey behind. And Bailey, of course, has been studying the data of the driver in front of him, just spotting where can he think about those manoeuvres. Is he setting it up? He's thinking about it there through the right. Almost opens up the door, but not quite enough there from Bailey. Slots back in, and once again has to sit back on the rear bumper, but a little stiff there from Joshua, but not quite able to get it done.
I just don't think that was the right opportunity for Joshua. You had a big hairpin coming up literally a corner later where it would have really been easy to do it on the brakes, but he decided to go for that sort of cheap overtake there, which didn't really plan out, which sort of hindered his exit, but he's got another 2 laps to try it, and he really is on the behind of Axel, apologies. But 2 attempts between them now. Can he get past this lap? Next lap, Axel will 100% defend, and to be honest, I think Axel should start thinking about defending if Joshua can get close enough now.
Indeed. Let's see. He's remaining firm at the moment, isn't he? Just hitting his markers and pressing on and keeping Bailey behind. It's been very impressive over the last couple of laps. Axel Nocom weathering the storm here and not crumbling under the pressure from Joshua Bailey. Well, this time, around that corner on the previous lap, Bailey was looking up the inside. He's nowhere near this time around. Axel Nocom just stretching his legs and able to open up the gap once more. Very impressive so far from Axel Nocom. And can he hold on to this 2nd place from Joshua Bailey? Would be fantastic points on the standings there, as you see them on the right-hand side of your screen. So here we go then, on to the final lap of the race goes Warwick Milam. Over 6 seconds clear. Of course, we had the slightly crazy lap number 1, which allowed him to scamper clear a little bit easier. But still, I can't take anything away from him. What a race yet again from Warwick Milam.
He's done nothing wrong as sort of standard for Warwick. He's really made the most of the situation. He's got a good start. He's kept the inside line, and he's sort of just avoided all the carnage that's happened behind him. But let's switch to Joshua Bailey quickly, because that gap is down to 2 attempts again. So we have one more big overtaking spot again. Can he wait to the hairpin? Axel is going to defend it, but can Joshua get by? As he tries to go for that small overtake there, which just means he's not close enough here. Axel doesn't have to even defend it all the way, but Joshua does get a better exit as he comes out for the cutback. Can he keep it around the outside?
Not quite. He's going to try to switch back, isn't he, here? I think the line already is Warwick Milam. He's already taken the win. We're going to run side by side here to the checkered flag. Nocom's got it. Nice bit of defence there over the last lap, and Nocom holds on impressive. So Warwick Milam wins yet again here in KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. Nocom in 2nd, Bailey in 3rd, and Purvu able to hold on ahead of Thomas Anthony across the line. Impressive from Adam as well.
Yeah, very, very good couple of fights there. I just think Joshua could have waited to that hairpin, and then I think he might have had a much better chance where it just meant that Axel didn't really have to properly defend the hairpin. He sort of just had to half cover it because Joshua was a little bit too far behind. But a very good fight again from Adam Purvu and Thomas Anthony. Something that we didn't really highlight too much, but they've been going at it for a couple laps now.
Yeah, there was a bit of defence, wasn't there, from Nocom down into that corner there we just come out of, courtesy of Nascimento. There was a bit of defence, and then messed up the exit ever so slightly, allowed Bailey to draw back alongside. But I think maybe if he hadn't fought so so much earlier on in the lap. Could have been a bit closer and maybe made better use of it. As you say, though, we're not the ones behind the wheel. Still a very good battle between Nocom and Bailey, but this time Bailey has to settle for third place. I think after the first couple of corners, he would have been pretty happy with third. I think he'll take that. As the last couple of drivers just head round to finish the lap, then that brings us to a close here for round number 2 of the International Series for KartSim Champions of the Future Esports in 2026. Here are your final provisional results. Warwick Milan wins ahead of Axel Nocom and Joshua Bailey, Alan Purvo and Thomas Anthony in the top 5, followed by Ellis Beattie, Ethan Miller, Alex Zicki, Tristan Powell and Anton Gao, your top 10, and they were followed by Isaac Morgan, James Vaught, Victor Gerritsen, Benjamin Nascimento and Elian Knoll, your 15 finishes in that one. Another great race here in KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. Thank you so much for joining us here from round number 2 of the International Series. As I mentioned earlier on, round 3 of the International Series will be at Viterbo in Italy on the 1st of July. But before that, we have a few different races. Round 3 for the Euro Series on the 27th of May, and then 2 UK Series races as well. Make sure you join us for that. Any final words from yourself, Josh?
No, not in particularly, but I think it's a very, very interesting race, and I think Mawson, another track that we haven't been to next in a couple of weeks' time, so it's all up in the air again. Will Warwick get it again? Will he not? It's a new championship as well. It is the Euro Series, so different players and a lot of drivers actually are in exam periods at the moment now. So Alexis probably will be in that one as well. So let's see if we can get some new faces in KartSim Esports really fighting Warwick for that top spot.
Let's see then. Warwick Milam extends his lead in the championship in the International Series. We'll rejoin him again for the International Series, as I say, on the 1st of July. But we'll see you back again here on the KartSim YouTube channel and the Champions of the Future YouTube channel for round 3 of the Euro Series on the